Every country seems like it has its own problems. American healthcare is terrible, Japanese economy is in a slump, British knife bins. Citizens regularly argue against each other online or in person which country has the least problems or history of bad decisions. Well, I guess I found the most free country with little corruption, a shiny beacon to the world on how to treat your citizens right. Why, yes, I'm talking about China, of course. What? Why are you laughing at me? I'll prove it to you, anti-communist chuds. The data is there to show China is truly the country of the world. And when I mean data, I mean a subreddit, of course. This is Wubba Bubba again, showing off more wholesome award-winning content from today's subject, r/Sino. r/Sino is a subreddit for news, information, and discussion on anything China and Chinese related. At first glance, the subreddit is just a discussion for citizens or anyone just interested in China. Well, not exactly. This subreddit is the place for Chinese communist shilling on a completely global scale. Chinese communist redditors, either sympathizers or nationals, come here to churn out so much disinformation, incredibly slanted positive stories, and outright deny historical events or developing events in China. They have a FAQ and a guide so long trying to debunk embarrassing events like Tiananmen Square, religious persecutions, Tibet, and the Uyghur re-education camps. I doubt even the most skilled paragraph comment readers of political subreddits could even stomach this, so I'm not going to bother to waste an hour reading this crap. I will get back to why this guide and subreddit will ultimately fail at the end of this video. What I think is way more interesting is to take a look at some of the most shilliest of the shill posts that are way too entertaining to pass. First up, the most prevalent type of post on this subreddit, what I like to call the "No You" post. In China, doctors are fired for criticizing the CCP. Meanwhile, in the West, this is a tactic you will see quite a bit. Some type of legitimate concern over human rights being abused in China, and instantly these Starbucks sipping tankies go, "No, didn't happen, also your country does it," and provides an example that most people would still condemn. They think that if they can say your country's government makes a bad move/decision, you can't criticize another nation. This line of thinking is dumb. Poll, just 16% say democracy is working well in the United States. Yes, our current system makes certain policies never see the light of day and leave people forgotten. Still better than having a battle with one party on it with carbon-copied politician votes for the same thing as the ruler of China believes in. Completely stupid.
Public satisfaction with China's government is currently at 96% according to Harvard study.
I highly doubt any poll in China is completely true, as the whole identity of any Chinese data, whether it comes to population or economy, is always slanted to make themselves look good. 96% is way too high for me to consider this to be accurate, and I doubt they would say anything mean to avoid repercussions. China has democracy, just different from the United States. The USA is a plutocracy. You literally have one party that sweeps the floor because that's the only party allowed. You technically have more parties, but they're legitimately the same party. Wow, gerontocracy. So freedom, much spending, such bipartisanship. Power corrupts you, filthy authoritarians. Wow, such vibrant democracy. Most people are against career politicians, and of course you picked the two worst examples. Also, these two are the most hated in America. Americans can air their grievances whether online or in person about them, something you cannot do to Winnie the fucking Pooh. And still, there are other people still on the ballot in America if the voters of Kentucky and California get on the same page as the rest of America and throwing them out, something that can definitely not happen in China. Cope and Sneed. Voting does not equal democracy. All these voter ID laws and whatever you want to call them voter suppression you want, is still better than choosing effectively one party. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I really have to hammer it into these stupid Redditors. Homes for the poor. Every country has a homeless problem except my communist paradise. These social credit masters of Reddit say. All it takes is just a quick Google search to find the same type of homeless and poverty type environments that the rest of the world has, including China. They literally think China doesn't have a single problem at all. This is comically delusional. Here are some Cope comments that we actually care more about freedom of speech instead of fixing issues. Americans constantly use the First Amendment to bitch at the government from doing stupid shit. If this has never worked, how the hell did we get out of Vietnam? If there was no such thing as freedom of the press or hippies gathering and speaking out, we'd be fighting there for God knows how long. Let's shift a bit in narrative and look at the community's favorite policies from China. Strong environmental policies under Xi. I really don't believe that at all. Subsidized and price-controlled commercial housing. Let's see how that's going. Well, not very good for these tofu dreg apartment buildings. These policies seem to have good intentions, but in my opinion, China keeps fumbling the ball. No, I must be wrong. It must be Western media tricking us into thinking it's all China's fault. If only we had some way to curtail wrongthink in this country. Oh wait, I glanced the solution so quickly. Yes, they actively shill for the Great Firewall. Don't believe me? Let's dive back into the cesspool. How do you feel about the Great Firewall? Think it'll always be there? Once China has enough sway over the global media, then it can lower the firewall. Right now, the US controls social media and corporate media all over the world. Okay, so it's only okay if China controls the narrative and not the Americans. There are a lot of media groups with slightly less and more than some American media networks from Britain, Qatar, Russia, and even China. Maybe the American media is more heavily reacted to because maybe we are the superior country over China. Just a biased American guess. The Great Firewall is annoying, but the last 2 decades has shown that the Great Firewall is a necessity to keep out American propaganda from destabilizing China. We have good evidence what would happen if US propaganda is allowed to stir people against each other unchecked. Just look at the Middle East. You are mad that if there wasn't a firewall, Chinese citizens might actually get tricked into listening to Western propaganda and forming an opinion. If your ideas can't succeed without heavy censorship because you think your people are so stupid, it's not the people, it's your ideas that are stupid. Your head starting to hurt yet? Well, you better take an Advil real quick because Redditors have to keep shilling China to the ends of the earth to own those English-speaking countries for upvotes. I found one of the worst cases of the enemy of my enemy is my friend not working out. So without further ado, here comes North Korea shilling. China reaffirms ties with North Korea in high-level meeting. China, North Korea, Vietnam, and Laos share an irreplaceable bond. When all is said and done, history will remember them as drivers of the human civilization. What can I even say? North Korea's Kim calls Winter Olympics great victory for China. It's not China that is threatening the very foundation of North Korea. Why should China fix it? North Korea has a problem with the US aggression. Why the fuck should China be responsible? North Korea is only in a difficulty because the US is a warmongering cunt that has no restraint. Warmongering is a compliment compared to what North Korea does in an afternoon. There's a reason most of the world hates them. Even the Chinese government can't stand Kim's antics all the time. I've touched on a little bit on how this subreddit does overtime on shifting the narrative on extremely concerning topics coming out of China, but I think this one post encapsulates their line of thinking. Despite all the evidence coming from Uyghur communities, no, they look fine because they did a photo op. Wow, smiling Uyghurs. Clearly guns pointed at their heads behind the camera lens. They do probably have a theoretical gun to their head. Either show up for the most obvious photo op, or get educated at a nice summer camp. So now that we are approaching the end of the video, since the rest of this subreddit is repeating the same bad faith argument post, why do I think this subreddit is doomed to fail? I think this subreddit will fail because it's just too tiring to push back on people's perceived and often correct views of China. They will spend hours responding to simple stories or images of historical events with endless paragraphs. Let's say, for example, they completely debunk an image from the day of Tiananmen Square that showed Chinese police doing something reprehensible. There's still another 1,000 other images from that day. That's the problem with the subreddit. They see China as the most perfect country in the world, with no flaws, and they dig their feet in and throw whole ass books at you when you respond with a simple image of evidence. That's why I think this sub will stagnate, but only time will tell. Thank you for watching the video. I really do appreciate the viewership. Make sure to upvote this video. It will increase my social credit score that is currently restricting me from using Reddit Gold to buy Soylent at the bread store. I have a lot of video ideas coming in the future, but don't worry, Down the Reddit Hole is here to stay. Because on Reddit, when you think it can get any worse, you'll peel back a layer and find something funny and degenerate at the same time. I hate this website. Until next time, this is Wubba Bubba signing off again.
Taiwan #1!
The HK Alex Yo.
Fuck you, motherfucker! Yeah, fuck you, motherfucker!